What is shaking, everybody? Let's get right to it. It's always a pleasure to talk to my next guest. We're going to talk a little NFL draft. And one of my favorites, CBS analyst, he's been with them since 2020. Seen him on NFL Network breaking down college football as well. Charles Davis, and a fellow billionaire aficionado. Charles, what's going on?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, Tom?
Doing good, doing good. Did we ever jump back on Billions? I know you're upset Axe left, but I hope you got back on it at some point.
Yeah, I never got back to it, which is sad. Everybody keeps telling me you missed out, so I hated that. But I actually was it Corey Stoll who took over?
Yep.
Kind of in the whole deal. I saw him on something recently. It's an old something, and he was a waiter in it. And I was like, hey. Running Axe Capital. That's pretty cool.
So you would have been happy too, because the last season Axe came back.
That's what I heard. Yeah,
that was a fun season. That was a really fun season.
The summer, so I've got to when the draft's over, maybe I can get back to it and catch up. What do they call it? Binging. See, I'm trying to
binging. Yes, that's what they call it. That's exactly what they call it. All right, before we get to the NFL draft, the Niners and maybe top 10 or so, did I read somewhere where next year will be the last year you're going to be doing the NFL after Gary Danielson retires? You're going to be doing the primetime college football game on CBS. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate, Tom. Gary's got this year, and he's going to have his farewell year, which is fantastic and more than deserved. Boy, he's been phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, and I'm fortunate enough that I'll be replacing him. So, and in my old spot, JJ Watt had moved into my spot on the NFL side, so I'll get one more year of NFL with a team and a unit to be determined, and we'll have that in 2025 and then 2026. College football. So what was that great movie, Back to the Future? That's where I started.
Well, I'm happy for you, and I'm happy for me too, because I know where you're going to be every Saturday now. Sunday, you had to jump around a little bit. Saturday, I know exactly where you're going to be. Whatever the primetime game is on CBS, I'll be able to see it. So congratulations.
I'm pretty fortunate to be able to jump in with a crew that's done it so well for so long. And I remember when I jumped in with Ian and Evan Washburn in 2020, my dad said, you're going on that team? I was like, yeah. He goes, wow, they're really good. He goes, well, things fall off. We know what happened. I'll never forget that.
Dang.
I have a feeling I'm going to get the same type of conversation in 2026. You're jumping on Brad Nessler, and that was Gary Danielson's team with Jenny Depp. Boy, if it falls off, we know what happened, don't we? So I'll not keep it in perspective.
Oh, my goodness. All right, let's jump to some draft talk. Let's get to the Niners. It's seemingly the Niners defensive line, offensive line are the two areas of need. Like they really could beef up the offensive line and defensive line. I don't know how Kyle looks at the offensive line. I know it's important, but I don't know if he feels like he can fix it and just plug guys in. Defensive line, I think they'd like to get back to what they had in 2019 when they had Armstead and Buckner and Bosa and Ford on the outside, which was just a dominant defensive line. They haven't been able to recreate that. More specifically, run stopping in the last couple of years has fallen off. Or like, where do you see that? Like, who are the guys on the defensive line that would make sense at 11, or maybe even in the second round? Because I've heard the defensive line is a pretty deep draft, especially defensive tackles. Who are some names you look at and say these guys could make sense for the 49ers?
Well, there are going to be a bunch of them, Tom, and let's see if my brain can summon up a few of them along the way.
Okay.
Because where they're picking at 11, there's a chance to get a prime guy, one of the top edge rushers that's in the draft. Obviously, it won't be Abdul Carter. He's clearly the number one guy out of Penn State, and he should be gone by number 2, number 3 pick, right? Like he's probably gone at that point. But a Mike Green from Marshall who's really made a jump in terms of us on the outside going, wow, who's this guy? Boy, we talk about risers and fallers. The NFL tends to crack up. They're like, we've been doing this for like 3 years with these guys. You guys so he's one of the players that you look at. Be interesting to see what happens with the Georgia kids. All right. If we're talking about Jalen Walker and Mike Williams about where exactly they go. They're both ranked very highly. Their sack numbers are not huge, but that hasn't stopped people from being really good pros. My quick example is always Danielle Hunter, the great pass rusher now. Used to be at the Vikings. He's about 100 sacks in his NFL career. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it's right around that number. He had 4.5 sacks in his collegiate career at LSU.
Wow.
Not a predictor for what we were going to see in the NFL. So you're just not quite sure sometimes. Sometimes the numbers just don't support how good they are or can be. And that coming out of Georgia, where you have a lot of rotation, a lot of players playing, sometimes the numbers don't pile up. Trayvon Walker, remember he went number 1 ahead of Hayden Hutchinson? And everybody's like, oh, my God, how'd you take someone ahead of Hayden Hutchinson? I get it. Hutchinson's been sensational. If he wasn't hurt last year, he's probably going to be an all-pro. And we hope he'll get back to that form very quickly. But Trayvon Walker's gone back-to-back double-digit sacks in the NFL. So it's not like he couldn't play. We just want to make sure. So the reason I bring that up is we're going to see a number of these guys that just don't have the numbers that flat out support it. But as we get into this thing and we get deeper, we're going to find guys who can play. I mean, you might find a kid like Ashton Gelati out of Louisville, who had decent numbers in college. He could be a mid-round guy who could turn out to be a heck of a pass rusher, not someone we think of, okay? Could we get a David Walker out of Central Arkansas who does not have the length, doesn't have the height, doesn't have the stature you're looking for, played at Central Arkansas for goodness sakes. But guess what? Kid's getting 20-something sacks a year the last couple of years.
Yeah.
What are we looking at and what we're going to get? So the 49ers obviously going to do their due diligence on all these different guys, all these different pass rushers, all these different people. And they come in all sizes, shapes. Ja Joyner at Minnesota, Fadil Diggs, Syracuse. I'm just throwing names just to let you know, Tom. I'm not sure how people are ranking them, but there's so many of them out there that the Niners are sure to be able to grab 1 or 2 of them.
What are your thoughts? Because one guy we all follow the ball when we're watching the game.
Yeah, it's kind of normal, right?
So it cracks me out when people talk about certain positions that you never see because they're following the ball. It's like, how do you know this guy is any good? I don't know they're any good, but I know the kid Nolan for Mississippi, the defensive tackle. He's a guy that when I watch Mississippi games, he jumped out at me. Now, apparently, he's also a guy that can disappear for a while because maybe the motor doesn't go, doesn't continue to rev high throughout the whole game. What are your thoughts on him? Because when he does flash, as they say, you look and you go, wow, that dude's pretty special.
Yeah, he absolutely is. And I think that you're onto something too, Tom. Your eyes are seeing what you're supposed to see. And you're right about, most of if you're watching just a game on TV, we are following the ball. But I have discovered in recent years, because game tape was always the one thing fans could not have access to or did not have access to. So as you mentioned, if they were scouting, right, if they were handing you their draft analysis when you would come out of Radio City Music Hall where the draft used to be held, I remember the early years of me doing it. If I so wanted, I could have carried 10 to 15 per day back to my room with me. And the people had done. They had done their work. They had busted it. They had done all that. They were serious about it, but they didn't have game tape. They were taking off of TV copies. They were doing other things. Now they have access to game tape. So when you decide to be Mr. Broadcaster or Mr. Evaluator, go, well, I've watched 7 of their games, thinking that'll be the end of the argument. Like, that's where you drop the mic. They're always like, yeah, well, I've watched 2 years worth and I have it right here. And I got every play broken down. You have to respect fans and their diligence. Okay. Sometimes they're not quite sure what they're watching, but sometimes they are. And I always go into it like, hey, I better respect what they've done because they put their time in. So it's kind of fun to watch. But back to Nolan, exactly what you're talking about. Upfield guy, can wreck things from the interior. Now, he's not an edge rusher, right? He's more of an inside guy. But boy, they had a hard time dealing with him in Mobile at the Senior Bowl, and teams who tried to block him had a hard time dealing with him either at Texas A&M or where he finished at Ole Miss. You mentioned flashes. Great scouts that I know tell me all the time, whatever you do, don't forget, grade the flashes. Never forget the big-time plays and wonder, are they repeatable by that guy? Baltimore's got plenty of those flashes that you want to see. because, Mason Graham from Michigan is probably gone by the time we get to the Niners. Is Kenneth Grant, his running mate at Michigan, worth it at 11? I don't know that you get him by the time you come back around the second time.
Yeah.
No is a possibility, as you mentioned, during that time frame. And I'm hearing a lot of good stuff about him as we approach the draft, because there's been, as you noted, a little bit of an up and down with him. I'm feeling more like the momentum is and the arrow's pointing up for him as we get closer to the draft in Green Bay.
Yeah. What about Harmon, the kid out of Oregon?
Yeah, I like him a bunch. And, with Oregon, it's almost always on the flash and the dash, right? Because that's what
exactly.
Right? That's like I'm watching the Mighty Ducks. Ducks fly together. But in this case, Harmon is an inside guy that has some versatility to move up and down the line of scrimmage a little bit for you. Can get upfield and get skinny on you and get into the face of the quarterback with some pressure, hold the point of attack on the line of scrimmage, shed, and go make a play in the run game. Really good effort on snap to snap and what you're seeing. And he's well regarded in the NFL ranks. And again, he will be a guy that's going to be considered in the first round as high as 11. That'd be interesting to see if it goes like that. But again, when you come back around for a second bite at the apple, the feeling is he wouldn't be there for the second bite unless you were doing something that you were able to maneuver with someone.
Yeah. And look, the offensive line is also a possibility. Will Campbell out of LSU, Membo out of Missouri, if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
You got it right. Yes.
But so here's what I want to ask you, because I say this all the time, Charles. Like, look, build your team around the defensive line and offensive line. That's where you're going to win football games, period. I go, you don't need the flashy guys. You don't need that. Like, for me, I'm not a wide receiver in the first round guy, but I get why they do it. But I'm going to contradict myself here, because I keep envisioning Tyler Warren if he's there in Kyle Shanahan's offense, and think, oh my gosh, that would be insane. Him and Kittle together. Now, I don't know them resigning Juszczyk, if that prohibits them from doing that, or that lessens a chance. I'm not sure. And I'm not even sure if it's a wise move, because they do need defensive line and offensive line. But man, it seems like it's a little bit of a luxury pick. But Warren and Shanahan's system, I'm thinking him and Kittle out there, how are you going to stop these guys? I mean, just thinking about it is like, oh, I'd love to watch that squad.
If re-signing Kyle Juszczyk does not prohibit this selection being made, if the 49ers had that opportunity and decided to do so, other than the discussion of the jersey number. And Juszczyk's too established with 44. So that's, I don't care what gets off the first Juice isn't giving that number up. But maybe kind of does it like, tell you what, how about number and waiting? You can switch to it in a year or two or whatever when we go down the line. But it doesn't prohibit it at all. And that's what you're talking about, Tom. The beauty of Warren being able to be used all over the place in your offense. Traditional tight end up on the line of scrimmage, flexed out a little bit, backside of a formation where he becomes the one-on-one guy and wins those routes one-on-one against people. Will block in the run game. Okay, will block downfield for you and just catches everything that comes his way. Plus that overall aura, feeling, mood, whatever you want to call it, that he brings to a team, where the sense is that you're getting a really good teammate. You're getting a guy that's going to come in and figure it out, have confidence in himself, but adapt to what we need to do here and become part of something, and not try and be something apart from what is already there. He just carries with him a great reputation, a great feel to him. But boy, what a player he has turned out to be. And let's face it, Tom, the highlight tapes are what really grab us, right? Because how often do you get a guy who actually gets a weird formation? He's the center. He snaps the ball, runs downfield like we're playing in the Turkey Bowl in our backyard, and he catches a touchdown pass, and not against, as Kelvin Sampson said it the other night, Sasquatch U. He caught it against USC in the Coliseum in a heck of a ball. So that's what you get. The interesting part is the second tight end, Colston Loveland, is rated pretty highly. Okay.
He's good too.
On some people's boards, I'm guessing, because I don't have it all in front of me, I don't have everybody tell me what their board says, but talking with different people involved, scouts and people, I had one say, listen, I would enjoy a debate between the two of them. That's how much he regards Colston Loveland.
Mm-hmm.
Loveland was hurt part of last year, but boy, he can do all the same things we're talking about with Warren, but we don't have the highlight tapes that go with it. So if you're a fan, you're like, I got to have Warren. He's got to be the guy. My barber, he's a Giants fan. And he's like, why wouldn't we take Warren at 3? Why wouldn't we take Warren at 3? I've heard that for a month and a half now, okay? But since he's cutting what few hairs I have, we're going to talk Warren at 3 as much as he wants to.
And you could use Warren as a wildcat quarterback if you want to. I mean, the dude's just a football player, that period. And you speak of the highlight tape. You don't need to watch a highlight tape. Just watch the USC game where he caught 1,000 balls and threw the ball and ran the ball. It was unbelievable.
High school quarterback. I mean, he had that in him already. And you go and read some of the stories that come out of his high school career. Basketball. There was one point where his high school basketball coach, he was not forcing people to throw, like, I got to have every shot. He's not that type of a kid. And at one point, I think in the article, the high school basketball coach realized what was being missed. And next practice, guys, no shots go up unless he touches the ball on this possession. If once he touches the ball, then we can go from there. But if he doesn't touch it, no one's taking a shot first unless it's a flat-out breakaway. So they had to figure out, okay, it's got to run through this young man.
So out of Cam Ward, Shadur Sanders, and Jackson Dart, how many of these guys are true first-round talents? Or how many of them are going? I mean, every year it happens. It doesn't surprise me anymore that everybody reaches for quarterbacks because we all know the importance of having a quarterback. I think in the playoffs this year, every quarterback was a first rounder except for 2, I want to say. I want to say one was a third rounder, Russell Wilson, and Jalen Hurts was a second rounder. I think everybody else was first rounders in the playoffs. So we know the importance. It's hard not to reach. It's, you get bit in the butt if you do reach and you're wrong. So that being said, we know people are going to reach for the quarterbacks. How many of these guys are true first round talents, you think? Or is that just subjective?
I put it into, how we talk about who was the greatest basketball player?
Yeah.
And we start the fight every single time, right? How about let's just talk about in their eras.
Okay. That's what I say. I'm with you on that. Absolutely.
Let's just talk about in their eras. Now, there are a few that you kind of go, well, he could probably play in just about any era. But there's very few of those. It's kind of like Jim Brown in football. Okay.
Yeah.
In his era, he was way ahead of time. But you look back at Jim Brown's stature, his build, height, weight, speed. Jim Brown would still be dominant now. He's one of those few that cross over. But let's play the game way that you and I talked about. Let's keep it in their eras. The quarterbacks that are coming out this year are not as highly regarded as let's just use last year. 6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks. Okay? That almost feels like the 1983 class that we talk about all the time, right? With Marino and Kelly and
who else was there? O'Brien was in there too, I think, and
Ken O'Brien. Tony Eason. All right,
Eason, that's right.
Todd Blackledge. You know what's interesting? Very quickly, Tom. That 1983 class, Elway won 2 Super Bowls and played in more. Right? Kelly won 4 straight Super Bowls and didn't get one, unfortunately, but went to 4 straight Super Bowls. Tony Eason quarterbacked the team to a Super Bowl. That was the Patriots against the 85 Bears. So that didn't go.
Oops.
But they got to a Super Bowl. Marino got to 1, and we still can't understand how that team never got back again. He got there a second year in the league, right? Ken O'Brien had the Jets as, I'm not going to call them a perennial playoff team, but they were there. Like they were close to being a playoff team most years. And gave people trouble. I think one year, didn't they lose the AFC Championship game to Miami? So
I think you're right.
Out of that group, it was unbelievable. But they were all from pick 1 through picks in the 20s because Marino went in the 20s. This is 6 of the first 12 picks. And by the way, out of those 6, only J.J. McCarthy didn't play because he was hurt going to Minnesota, right? But Bo Nix had a heck of a rookie year. Caleb Williams showed us why he was picked number 1, even though the Bears imploded, but I think that was more around him than it was him. Jaden Daniels was sensational.
It was great.
Drake May, once he became the starter, got better and better and better and almost took out Buffalo late in the season in Buffalo in a game they had no business even being in. And Michael Penix became the starter late and kept Atlanta in the playoff hunt. On a one-year sample, a very good quarterback crop so far. So let's see how things develop for them and go. But compare them to this year's, just off of the rankings, off of how people would evaluate them, there's a major fight about whether any of the quarterbacks in this year's draft would be taken before the last one was taken last year, which was Bo Nix at 12. Some people might say Cam Ward. Some might say Shedeur as well. Could be in the argument when you get to the 4th, 5th quarterback that was taken last year. That might be about it. But there are a number of people, I believe, that would say all 6 from last year before this one. That's kind of what we're dealing with, Tom. So we're talking about in its era, though. Cam Ward's a first rounder, clearly the top guy. Then you're gonna have a lot of arguments now. Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shuck from Louisville, who's a little bit older, and I think hopefully we're losing that overaged tag. I like a quarterback with some age on him myself. I like a youngster coming out who goes into a huddle with a bunch of grown men and isn't just 22 years old and still finishing off his Clearasil. All right. He's going to go into the huddle, been to 4 different schools, got 4 different degrees. This guy comes in a little more mature, married, understands what it's going to take now, and has a lot to prove because he only had 1 year where he was healthy, and that was this past year. He's had some freaky injuries. I don't know that he's injury prone as much as unlucky, but he had his best year last year and was pretty darn good in it. And then you get guys like Will Howard at Ohio State who won a national title. He's like, I'm the best quarterback in the draft, which I love to hear because you better have confidence in yourself. I know somebody compared him the other day to Josh Allen and what have you. That's really, really rich for me. But I like Will Howard a lot. Great young man, the whole deal. He's got some moxie to him. He's had to battle. If you check his backstory, it wasn't handed to him at Kansas State, lost his job a couple times, and then was a 1-year deal at Ohio State, and it had to pay off in the big one because they let Kyle McCord go to Syracuse. And Kyle McCord had a heck of a year at Syracuse. But Howard comes in, justifies why they made the move they made, was really good during the college football playoff. And there are a few others as well, but I did read this, Tom. Somebody was talking, a really good talent evaluator that I respect. I think it's Matt Miller over at ESPN, mentioned we have a middle class of quarterbacks this year that we don't normally have. Usually you have here, and everybody else is down here. This year you have that middle class that you're hoping might become starters, and a good number of the guys I've talked about would hit that middle class. It's going to be interesting because we normally push quarterbacks up, but there are certain years where we think they're going to get pushed up, and we actually make them wait. Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder. Remember that year?
Mm-hmm.
It goes to Pittsburgh in the first round. We're waiting for the others to now get gobbled up. The next quarterback went in the 3rd round. Ridder and Willis both went in the 3rd round. Will Levis on draft night a couple of years ago walks in, and everybody's like, could he be a top 5 pick? And he picked in the 1st round. He's the 2nd pick in the 2nd round and has struggled starting last year as a starter. So maybe sometimes that depth, water finds its level. Will this be a year where those quarterbacks don't actually go despite all of us spending all of our time trying to evaluate it?
Yeah. Every time I think of Will Levis, I think of, may your quarterback not throw 4 picks in a game.
Tom, I tell you, I've liked this young man in a lot of ways. He loves the game. He's serious about it. He takes it that way. The quirks will get you if you don't play with them, right?
Oh, there's no doubt about that.
Look, the Bull Durham movie holds up so well.
With the flip-flops, I was just thinking the same thing.
Right, Tom?
Yep.
When he comes through and he's had that really bad night where Annie read to him or whatever, and he never had any sleep, laying on the training table, and Crash picks up the shower shoe.
Yeah.
The shower shoe has fungus on it. And he goes, you win 20 in the show, you're colorful.
Yeah.
Here, you're just a slob.
Exactly.
That's quirks, right? If you have
Yep.
different quirks and you're a little bit off the beaten path, it's applauded like crazy if you're kicking butt and you're winning. If not, we find ways to jump on you for it. And for right now, Will Levis is going through that. Hopefully he can get better than that and get past it. I hope so for his sake.
All right, before I let you go, I got to ask you about Brock Purdy, because I feel like I'm still fighting this fight of trying to explain myself for thinking that Brock Purdy is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I've said it's Mahomes, it's Burrow, it's Allen and Jackson. Those are the unquestioned top four. Those are separate from everybody else. Then there's Stafford, to me, is right there, but he's in a different category because he's a little bit older. And I said, look, as far as I'm concerned, I'll take Purdy over the rest. Herbert, I might have an issue with, but I Goff and Love and Hurts and Stroud and even Daniels, I'd like to see another year. But anybody else, I go, I'll listen to the arguments. If you like the other guys better, I go, but for me, Brock Purdy is in that mix. And I still feel like we're kind of fighting the Mr. Irrelevant, last player picked, when's the bubble going to burst thing. It's like, aren't we past the bubble bursting now? If it was going to burst, it would have burst a while ago. And I feel like it's kind of coming back into play now. People talking about it because of his contract. And I'm thinking, he'll get between 50, 55 around there. That's what all those other guys are getting. And I put him in that category. How do you see it? Because I still feel like I'm trying to explain to people, who cares we got drafted? That was like 3 years. Nobody cares anymore. He's already proven himself at the big boy level. At least I think he has, hasn't he?
I believe he has, Tom. I think the best way, I wish I could just pull the clip and just do it right now. We were doing San Francisco at Arizona right around Christmas 2 seasons ago, not last season, but the season before, Super Bowl season. And Brock was making his return home, Arizona and the whole deal. The Cardinals actually wore all white for holiday white at home, which they don't normally do, that sort of deal. And Brock comes in and does what he did the entire season, which was light them up and play well. And we had that same discussion on air. And I'm just going to paraphrase here. I'm in your camp, okay? I think he can play. I don't think this is just, oh, wow, look at the system. Look what's going on. The system helps because Kyle does a fantastic job, Kyle Shanahan, in scheming matchups, scheming people open, making that offense hum. And there were times when the 49ers weren't very good, and you saw good flashes from C.J. Beathard. You saw flashes from Nick Mullins, right? You're seeing guys that really aren't starters in the league, but Kyle did such a great job with that offense, and he can give you fits even when his talent isn't as good. Now put the talent together. Now you have people to throw to, people to block for him, people to run the ball. And here comes Brock Purdy working his way up from Mr. Irrelevancy to taking it over and getting better and better and better and better. I do think there's a huge, huge bias because he was Mr. Irrelevant, and it drives people crazy. There's just no way this can be happening. But in all this conversation we've talked about who gets to Super Bowls as quarterbacks, it's typically a first round, second round guy, right? Our outliers, Russell Wilson, 3rd round. The GOAT, 6th round. Number 199 seared into our brains. It's the ultimate outlier.
Yep.
Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, has gotten to a Super Bowl. So we will have those come through. But the consistency and who's going to win Super Bowls and who's going to be dominant is typically you got to get your quarterback first, 2nd round. Brock Purdy, I think, has broken through on that one. I think that if he goes from there to another place, he's going to be a good quarterback there.
Yeah.
It was no accident in what I saw. I got really tired of the old, okay, you keep telling me all these things. There are a lot of other people who got drafted either ahead of him or what have you, who've had opportunity. They haven't come even close to doing this. It can't all be the system. He has to make the system go. And by the way, when he gets hurt against the Eagles, I'm not saying that they win that game. The Eagles were awfully good. But that game became a no doubter because he couldn't play. Absolute no doubter because he couldn't play. There has to be some value that people need to acknowledge with that young man. And I'll put this, He can play quarterback for me, and I think I can get to a Super Bowl again with him and maybe win it. But that's just where I am. I feel like I'm in your camp on it. I'm not tired of fighting it. I just don't understand what people are trying to say. I think a lot of people are hoping that he falls off the cliff because
I think you're right.
We do like being right about what we see, or we do like acknowledging where people came from and what their numbers were. And when that gets upset a little bit, it throws people off. It really does, because it's like, whoa. You told me that he wasn't very good because you drafted him last in the thing. Well, guess what? Sometimes it happens. Tom Brady in the 6th round, turning into the best quarterback we've seen, that's the ultimate outlier. Okay?
Yeah, no doubt about it.
How often is that going to happen?
Not very. You know what it's like, Charles? It's like those are the people that if it was a first overall pick, they'd want to give him chance after chance after chance after chance. And then they would also blame the system for retarding the growth of the quarterback because, well, hell, he was drafted number 1. He has to be good. He can't be this bad. It's got to be someone else's fault. I saw this guy in college and he was great. And it's like, I get it. But once you get a couple years in the league now, 2.5, 3, you're showing people who you are. Whether you choose to believe what you're watching or not is up to you, but it doesn't matter because coaches will tell you in any sport, I don't care where you get drafted. Are you going to get more chances because we invested more money in you? Yes, of course. But at some point, you got to help me win. And I got to feel like you can help me win because if not, your draft status isn't helping me. So you're going to show me who you are soon enough. In 2 years, it's enough time to show you who you are. So I just kind of shrug my shoulders now. I'm with you. I don't mind saying it all the time because I believe it. It just surprises me that there's still that many people out there that are like, yeah, he's good, but, look at all the weapons he had. I'm like, well, he didn't have them last year. And if you're going to go by weapons, how come nobody held that against Kurt Warner, even though he was undrafted, but he looked the part, or Peyton Manning, who was drafted first overall? He had Hall of Famers all over the place. So it just makes me chuckle a little bit. Like maybe the 5th year, maybe if he wins a Super Bowl, maybe people will go, you know what? Okay, now we can admit it now. He's actually pretty decent.
It's the age old, and it'll never end, Tom. And that's our opinion. Our people have a different opinion, but you're right, because Sam Darnold on the flip side last year, okay, comes in, was he number 3 pick overall?
Yeah,
doesn't go well for him with the Jets, right? He struggles in Carolina. Right, San Francisco, he doesn't get to play a whole lot, but it's probably really important to be in that system for a while and kind of get out of the fray a little bit. And then he gets to the right place with the right coach and the right system and someone who believes in him, and Kevin O'Connell has that year. I know the way it ended wasn't what anyone wanted, but what you saw during the season, that goes back to what you said. Okay, he's a first-round pick. He's going to keep getting chances. Someone's going to see something. Someone's going to try. If Brock Purdy had flamed out early, how many teams would have been scrambling to pick him up and say, no, he's our guy. We're going to bring his chances run out.
0.
So he has to hit it, and he did it quite well. And the last thing I'll say is you brought up Peyton, Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne,
Dallas Clark.
But it's funny? There was a time when Peyton started to get more respect, to your point, when the Blair White experience happened, when he had guys hurt, and now he's making those receivers better, because Brady did it for a lot of his career. But people forget there was times when Peyton did that as well and made those receivers better. The Broncos receivers weren't a collection of all-stars. Demaryius Thomas was pretty darn good. But when he was there, he was lighting them up too. And I think people gave him more respect during that time than maybe they did when it was Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison. But what we discovered is Peyton's pretty darn good.
He's pretty good.
You're going to be pretty good too.
He's pretty good. Hey, Charles, I really appreciate you making the time. I know it's a busy time of year with the draft coming up and all that stuff. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining the show. Hopefully we can do it again at some point when we get ready for the NFL season and kind of break down the season a little bit. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Sounds great, Tom. I appreciate it too. And on my study breaks, I've been watching Celtic City, that Bill Simmons.
Yeah, how do you like it? I haven't seen it yet.
I have enjoyed the heck out of it. And I grew up hating the Celtics. Okay.
Were you a Laker guy?
I grew up in New York State, but I was more
so
of
you're
a
a Knicks
Magic
guy.
I was more of a Magic guy because I saw Magic
Okay.
as a freshman at Michigan State. So I just followed him through. So
Yep.
naturally I became a Lakers guy. So now, it's on, right? The whole thing.
Yep.
This Celtic City is so darn good. I got a tip of the cap to Bill Simmons and crew for putting that whole thing together, because it's not just the basketball. It puts in the context, the city, the time, what was going on here in the world, all of that. I just finished the last two with Len Bias being drafted.
Oh, yeah.
And now they're looking for the next guys. Larry and Kevin and Bill Walton are exiting, and it's supposed to be Reggie Lewis. Wow. So they went through it for a time before coming out to where we are now. So I've really enjoyed the series, and I've never had a chance to meet Bill Simmons, but everything he puts out there is incredibly quality work.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch it. What's funny, Charles, there's 3 teams I still hate to this day, and a sports hate. Like, I just won't root for that team.
Yeah.
I don't care who they're playing. The Yankees is one.
Yeah.
So even though they play the Dodgers, I'm an Angel fan. I didn't root for the Dodgers, but I want to see the Yankees lose. The Cowboys, because I always used to beat the Rams in the playoffs back in the day, so I can't stand the Cowboys. I don't care who they're playing. I root against Cowboys. And the Celtics. Even to this day, even though I'd still play in the NBA, work in the NBA, I don't really root, but I can't. And they have I have nothing against Tatum. Seems like super cool guy. Brown seems like a super cool guy. Like, the whole team seems like they're like guys that I would like, but I don't care. They're wearing the green and white. And because I was a Laker fan growing up, and I loved Magic and Kareem and Worthy and B. Scott and all those guys, I hated the Celtics when McHale clothesline Rambus. Like, I wanted to go through my TV and grab McHale and choke him. Like, I was just like, and then he only got 2 free throws. I was like, where's the flagrant? Somebody said that's another 20 years. You got to wait 20 years for a flagrant.
Yep. A whole different world. 2 free throws. No one gets tossed out.
Good play on.
I mean, just play on. They were showing stuff where guys went in the crowd after people. Nothing.
Yep.
Suspensions, playing the very next game, the whole deal. It was a different time and a different era. But yeah, I've enjoyed the series, even though
I'll watch it.
I'm not a Celtics fan. And there's nothing wrong with it, Tom. Hate dies hard. And that's okay.
Yes, it does.
And in sports, that is okay. You should have a healthy hate for the people you really don't like, or the teams you really don't like. You just make it respectful enough. Don't put yourself in trouble. But it's okay to hate. That's
it's okay to hate. Hey, Charles, I hated him so much in the 80s, I wouldn't even eat Lucky Charms during the month of June.
Hey, look, I've got a very good friend I grew up with who is a BYU grad. No one in his family is permitted to wear red because that's Utah.
So the Holy War.
so it's like that everywhere. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't fool yourselves. The Holy War means something. All right.
Oh, you're darn right. It means something. It's nasty.
No one in the family wears anything with red in it. There you go.
That is beautiful. Charles, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Let's do it again, man.
Look forward to you.
Thank you, Charles. All right. You take it easy. All right.
Bye-bye.
Charles Davis, literally just one of my favorites. The guy is so good. Just a classy guy.